COS. Okay. All right. Now, let's proceed with the cytokines. The cytokines, always na nato ni natunggan, these are the chemical messengers. Di ba mga chemokines, cytokines? The cytokines are chemical messengers that regulate your immune system. They orchestrate both innate and adaptive response to infection. Without the cytokines, walay attraction with the WBCs or other na cascades with our immune system. So small proteins, these are small proteins that are produced by several different types of cells that influence hematopoietic and immune systems through activation of the cell-bound receptors. Now, in adaptive immunity, kinsa ganitong mga, if ma-trigger sila ng mga cells, ang mag-produce of cytokines. Na-mention na to ganina. Kinsa ng mga cells ang mag-produce of cytokines? T cells, correct. Okay? Your T cells produce cytokines once na ma-activate sila. Okay? So, in response to the binding of stimuli to specific cell receptors. So, through the recognition of foreign antigens or by host lymphocytes, they are being released. Okay? So, there are types of the action of your cytokines. Now, they can be autocrine, paracrine, or endocrine. When we say autocrine, self are the same, no? Pareho lang. Ang naapektuhan niya is ang same cell that secreted it. So for example, this is the cell. Okay, so nag-release siya og cytokine. Ang nag-release siya cytokine, ang naapektuhan lang po is the same cell. So pwede na po siya or the same cell niya. For example, this is a neutrophil. Okay? Ang naapektuhan, the same lang po niya na cell, neutrophil. Okay? Paracrine, it affects to a target cell that is close lang sa iyang proximity. So for example, si T cell, nag-produce og cytokine. No, unsa lang iyang proximity, unsa lang iyang cell nga duol lang sa iya ha? Let's say another cell, let's say si NK cell ni. No, ang naapektuhan is ang proximity lang, within its proximity, then that is your paracrine. Okay? So, if endocrine siya, systemic na, layo na kaayo. So, si Tisa nag-release sa cytokine, na-address si neutrophil, naka-receive sa yung cytokine, no, systemic activity, then that is your endocrine na action of your cytokine. Alright? So, therefore, si cytokine, dili lang siya limited to a certain site, but pwede po siya systemic. So, different cytokines work together in network of cytokine expression to regulate your leukocytes activity and leads to elimination of the infection. Okay? So, i-regulate niya ang phagocytosis or ang leukocyte activity or even ang elimination mismo sa infection mo na ang function ni cytokines or cytokines. Now, their attributes no, sa cytokines na to, they can be pleiotrophic or pleiotrophy. Meaning, single cytokine may have different actions. Okay? Isa lang siya ka-cytokine pero daghan siya roles. Okay? Redundancy, it means different cytokines activate same pathway and genes. So, paulit-ulit lang iyahang action. Redundancy. Synergy. Cytokines complement and enhance each other. No? So, nag-synergy or kaya nag-complement with each other. Antagonism, they counteract the action. Kontrabida, antagonism, they counteract the action of another cytokine. Cascade induction, no, wherein the cytokines secreted by a certain cell can activate target cells to produce additional cytokines. So, nag-produce siya cytokine, activating another cell. So, for example, si T cell na activate, nag-produce na po og cytokine. So, na ay synergistic or kaya na ay cascade. Nag-cascade siya, nagsunod-sunod ang iyahang action sa cytokines. Nasabtan ni attributes sa cytokines. Okay. Now, there are different names of your cytokine, no? And it is based on their origin. If past gani, take note, the lymphokines, monokines, and interleukins. Di ba? Marami niyo si Mayor Lim, itong mahal kong Maynila, di ba ka nakakuan? Si Mayor Lim, L-I-M, past, dati siyang mayor ng Manila. Okay, si L-I-M, lymphokines, monokines, and interleukins. Okay? Lymphokines, interleukins, monokines. Okay, so when we say lymphokines, from the name itself, Lympho released by your lymphocytes. Monokines released by your monocytes or macrophages. Interleukins in between the WBCs. Interleukins in between WBCs. Alright? So para dili malimtan. Okay. Now, the present cytokines are grouped according to the families. So these are the families of the cytokines: interferon, tumor necrosis factor, interleukins, the chemokines, transforming growth factors, colony stimulating factors, and the interferon intracellular response. Okay? Now, let's start with the interferons. Your interferon are intracellular response. These are glycoproteins produced by all animals that exert virus non-specific but host-specific antiviral activity. So they are discovered in virally infected culture cells. Kapag virally infected, gani, interferon dayon ang bida na cytokine. Alright? The interference with viral replication in the cells by another virus led to the term interferon. They interfere to the viral replication. Alright? So your interferon acts as antiviral agents, immunomodulators, and anti-neoplastic agents. Alright? Now your interferons, the interferons, where let's focus on the alpha, beta, and gamma. The target cells of your interferon alpha are the leukocytes, and they function as antiviral and increased sila in the MHC class 1 expression. Remember, di ba MHC class 1? Endogenous, exogenous na pathway. Endogenous, therefore viral. Okay, for virus, interferon alpha. Interferon beta, for fibroblast, ihang target, and epithelial cells. Now, the same antiviral and increased MHC class 1 expression. Your interferon gamma are ihang target, mga T cells and natural killer cells. Okay? So, they have this major macrophage activation, no, kapag ilang matarget ang T cells, and induce nila ang MHC class 2, and i-augment niya ang NK cell activity, and antagonist siya sa interleukin factor 4. Okay? Ang interferon gamma. Alright. Now, let's proceed to the tumor necrosis factor or the TNF. Kapag TNF, extracellular sila. Kinsa itong intracellular? Si interferon. Intracellular si interferon, extracellular si TNF or si tumor necrosis factor. These are proteins secreted by many different cells. Alright, the principal mediator of the host response to the gram-negative bacteria and may also respond to other infectious organisms. Pansin ninyo mga bacteria, gram-negative bacteria, na sila yung mga necrosis na infection. Diba? Remember niyo sa bacteriology? And stimulate the recruitment of neutrophil and monocytes to the site of infection and activate these cells to kill the microbe. Okay? Tumor necrosis factor. Alright? So para counter niya ang mga gram-negative bacteria. Alright, so your tumor necrosis factors. Sorry, mali ni. Dili ni IFN kay tumor necrosis TNF. TNF alpha and the TNF beta. Pwede din, tama din. Ano day gihapon siya? IFN day gihapon siya. No, tumor necrosis factor or the IFN alpha and the IFN beta. TNF alpha or the TNF beta or the IFN alpha or the IFN beta. Okay? Your tumor necrosis factor alpha are called as the chemokines and your beta are the lymphotoxins. Okay? So, ang target sa mga chemokines are macrophages, natural killer cells, while your lymphotoxins, mga lymphocytes, T cells o B cells. Alright? Their biological activities ng mga chemokines, they are for local inflammation and endothelial activation, while your lymphotoxins are for killing and also for endothelial activation. Now, let's proceed to interleukins or the ILs. Mga IL. Kanidaghan kayo ni mga interleukin. Okay? They modulate inflammation. Basta inflammation, modulation, that's your interleukins. And regulating growth, mobility, and differentiation of your leukocytes. So they must have their genes cloned, they must be inducible in leukocytes, and their biological activities in inflammatory processes must be cataloged. So here are the interleukins. Okay? Kapag gani, di ba kapag masakit ka, ang pinakaunang sintomas sa imong ma-feel unsa man? Fever, magkalintura. Okay? So interleukin 1, that is responsible for fever, inducing fever. Okay, huwag kalimutan, i-remember yun na, always yun magbalik-balik. Si interleukin 1 is a pro-inflammatory cytokine that induces fever. Interleukin 1, mura po na yung ma-remember for sure. Interleukin 2 is a T-cell growth factor that activates the natural killer cell to become lymphokine-activated killer cells, or the LAK. Okay? So, ma-remember na ako before, para dili ako malitan si interleukin 2 na correlated, or yung function is activation of the natural killer cells. Di ba si natural killer cell is kanang ratatatatat man siya, kanang bisag kinsa naman iyang i-target, maski wala na opsonize na antibodies ang antigen, or kaya wala siya prior exposure, no? So si natural killer cell, kung patyo na niya, ay self-deca, sorry, so interleukin 2. Okay? So interleukin 2 for activation of the natural killer cells. Interleukin 3 induces the hematopoiesis, okay, or formerly known as the multi-colony stimulating factor. Interleukin 4, they are the key regulator in the humoral and adaptive response or immunity. They induces the transformation of the naive T helper cells to become your T helper 2 cells. Okay? T helper cells, mga immature na T helper cells, to become a T helper 2 cells. Now, interleukin 6, they respond to the interleukin 1, which is inducer sa kung sa ganito interleukin 1? Sa fever. And also tumor necrosis factor, and causes hepatocytes to synthesize several plasma proteins. They also induce the acute phase response inflammation. Mao nitong nasa to ang quiz kaganina, diba? Again, siya ang naga-induce sa mga acute phase response inflammation along with your interleukin 1 and tumor necrosis factor. Okay, so if sa question, now which of these cytokines induce acute phase reactance or acute phase response sa inflammation? Okay, if naani silang tulo, kisa imong best? Kisa inyong best answer? C, interleukin 6. Okay, it should be interleukin 6. Now, the principal secondary mediators of inflammation that are produced by the several cells are your interleukin 8. Okay, so daghan pa na siya sa book. Alright, napanay mabot interleukin 10. Okay, napay 12, 13, 14, 15, and so on. No, so kani ang akong i-highlight, no, for kay mo ni siya ang common. Pero kindly read gihapon si Stevens, no, kay basig na ay mugawas interleukin 10, 13, 17 unsa pa na din ha. Alright? And so that ends our discussion about the especially on the prelim